To begin, I'd like you all to just take a moment and consider what your day would be like if you couldn't turn on the tap and get clean drinking water, or if you flushed the toilet and the wastewater didn't go anywhere. When you have reliable water service, you don't have to think twice about the infrastructure that brings water to and from your home every day, but we all should. Today, we are here to imagine a day without water. It's a day to notice the way that local water systems impact our lives and commit to a sustainable water future for generations to come. This event is part of the 6th annual Imagine a Day Without Water, a nationwide day of education about the value of water. I'd like to welcome Milwaukee Water Works Superintendent Karen Dettmer, and she will give us a short presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I am getting my slideshow up and I will share my amazing mug. And as you may see, I'm a bit more of a tea drinker than coffee drinker. But you can't make great tea without great water. Just to make sure, Christina, you can see my screen clearly, the correct one?
Yes, you are all good to go.
Great, thank you. So I really appreciate President Johnson's comment about giving his children their first cup of water, because when we talk about water, it is just so essential to life. And in Milwaukee, we pride ourselves on being a water-centric city. So when we look at what makes a water-centric city, we've determined through a planning process that there are 7 principles of a water-centric city. And Kevin Shafer from MMSD will talk a little bit about other principles, but I'm here today to talk to you about the principle that's most important to Milwaukee's drinking water: sustainable, healthy water supply. And if you would like, I would encourage you to check out watercentriccity.org and review the plan that Milwaukee has put together with many partners, looking at how to become a water-centric city. When we look at the history of Milwaukee, water is so essential to our history and is so critical to our future. At Milwaukee Water Works, our mission is to provide a safe and reliable supply of water to our customers at a competitive or reasonable price. And to that end, we look at all the different ways that we can do that in a responsible manner. Milwaukee Water Works, it is little known, actually was created, the water utility was created with the option of fire suppression in mind. So it wasn't necessarily the onus of the waterworks to supply clean drinking water. It was more incorporated for fire suppression, and we take that very seriously. But we've moved more toward looking at exactly what it takes to get clean drinking water supplies. So we often say we're not just in the water delivery service, we are in the public health and safety service. Our water service area includes over 860,000 people served. That's in 16 different communities. And this is a map of our service area where it shows in blue our retail service area. So that includes areas that we not only pump and treat the water, but we also own the water mains. And we own over 1,900 water mains in that distribution center in the blue area. Now, over 1,900 miles of water mains is hard to imagine, but if you think about it, from Milwaukee to Los Angeles, California, is just about 2,000 miles. So our network of reliable and redundant water mains could stretch almost to Los Angeles, California. Hard to picture, hard to imagine. Now, through those water mains, we have a lot of redundancy. And we also have large feeder mains that pump that water to our wholesale customers in the green area. And you can see we have over 15 different communities that we're serving, and soon to be 16 communities, including Milwaukee County. And that will include Waukesha, the city of Waukesha, in a couple years here. And we currently pump approximately 35 billion gallons annually. And it's hard to picture 35 billion gallons. That's on average a little less than 100 million gallons per day. So pretty phenomenal when you think about the amount of infrastructure that goes into that. A little bit about our treatment process. We use ozone disinfection, we use coagulation and flocculation. Coagulation is when all those particles connect together and they work like magnets and bond to each other, and that creates weight that allows them to fall to the bottom. So all those suspended solids that are coming out of Lake Michigan are taken out of our water. They're then filtered, and then we add chlorine disinfection as well as fluoridation for healthy dental health in our children. And then we also add corrosion control treatment. So two of our most recent additions to our water treatment process are ozone disinfection that we added in 1994 following cryptosporidium outbreak, and corrosion control treatment that we added in 1996, ensuring that we are compliant with the lead and copper rule. We have two water treatment plants. Our Linwood Water Treatment Plant is on the shore of Lake Michigan, just north of Bradford Beach. And it has been in continuous operation for over 80 years. Pretty amazing when you think about the capacity of that. And that requires a lot of upkeep. We are consistently looking at the different components. We are consistently looking at what needs to be updated, what needs to be maintained, and what is the best time to do a replacement versus maintenance. And of course, we have our Howard Water Treatment Plant that is on the corner of Howard and Howell. And that was built a little bit later in around the 1960s. And distributing the water from these water treatment plants are 11 pumping stations, again, to our retail customers as well as to our wholesale customers. We have a state-of-the-art water quality laboratory that is continuously sampling and checking and monitoring and analyzing our water to ensure the highest quality of water that's being delivered to our customers. We have approximately 3,000 observations from each plant per month. Approximately 2,000 additional observations from our distribution system, including over 70 different locations that we have sampling sites throughout our distribution system to ensure that not only the quality of water that's leaving the plant is good, but the quality of water that's out in the distribution system at any point in the area is really healthy and great as well. We do manual sampling. We have lab technicians that go out and actually collect samples at various areas, typically firehouses and libraries and schools. And then we have continuous sampling that we use throughout our distribution system, as well as in our plants, to monitor those extra critical items, including the ozone levels, the pH, and the chlorine of the water. We also have remote sampling sites throughout the distribution system that continuously monitor those types of critical metrics, the pH, the chlorine, the turbidity, as well as temperature. And we also monitor for over 500 contaminants. The DNR and the EPA regulate approximately 90 contaminants in the water, but we take it that extra step further and monitor approximately 500. So to the end of imagining a day without water, it's difficult to understand all the work that goes into it. If I could just ask, it looks like somebody else is on, if they could go on mute. But we are constantly evaluating our system and making sure that we are making the investments in infrastructure improvements. For that 1,960 miles of water mains, our goal is to replace 20 miles of those water mains per year. We also include lead service line replacement in those water main replacement projects, as well as emergency in our lead service line replacement program. So that means if a lead service line has a leak on it, we are coming out, we are working with the customer, we are ensuring that that lead service line is replaced in its entirety, both the privately owned portion and the utility owned portion, to ensure the utmost safety. And I like to show this picture of these lead service lines that we pulled out of the ground, because you can actually see that white powder inside the lead service line. That is the corrosion control treatment that I noted earlier. We're currently, in anticipation of revisions for the EPA's lead and copper rule, we're currently undergoing a corrosion control treatment study that's looking at how effective our current dosage of corrosion control treatment is, and whether we need to tweak that in any way that we can be more effective. When we look at replacing lead service lines, we need that critical investment and that infrastructure capital to ensure that we can move forward with those replacements. In the meantime, we are ensuring that the water and the chemistry of the water is creating that barrier inside the pipes to provide extra safety for our customers. And most recently, we've been working very closely with the U.S. Water Alliance, the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, the Milwaukee Water Commons, MATC, Employ Milwaukee, Milwaukee Jobs Works. I could go on all the great partners that we have, nonprofits, and community organizers that we've been working with to ensure that we have an equitable workforce in our future of Milwaukee Water. And that is all I have. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for that great information. We now are going to move to the other side of the process and welcome Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District Executive Director, Kevin Shafer.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Christina, for the introduction. I will note I'm the first speaker today that actually drinks coffee. I have my cup here, and when I took this job in 2002, my 10-year-old son at the time, we went to Disney World with the family, and he bought me the big cheese cup. So coffee has a very personal, special spot for me in my my life. And every time I drink a cup of coffee, I think of him, my family, and what clean drinking water means to all of us. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So Karen Dettmer did a great job talking about providing the clean drinking water to everyone's front door. So the water comes into your home, your business, you use that water, and then it comes to the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District. We're the back door of that process. And I like to think of us sometimes as the custodians for the environment, because we need to make sure that the environment's clean, that the water environment's clean, so that when Karen pulls that water from Great Lakes, it's as clean as possible, so that she does not have to do as much to treat that water. MMSD really provides two basic functions. We reclaim water, we take that wastewater, we clean it, and we discharge it back into Lake Michigan. And then we also manage flooding. So we've got flood management projects throughout the region to try to keep water out of people's basements. Because when water gets into people's basements, it goes into the floor drains. The floor drains goes to the plumbing, which is connected to the sewers, which comes to the local system, and then to MMSD system. So we're really trying to reduce the amount of clear water, rainwater, that gets into the system, so that we can reserve that capacity for the wastewater. Much like Karen, we have a very large service area, 1.1 million people, goes up through half of Mequon, Thiensville, Germantown, out west, the Subcontinental Divide, and down to the south at the Racine County line. About 1.1 million people, 411 plus or minus square miles, and 28 municipalities. And so all of these areas that were within this line, when you use water in your house, whether your dishwasher, laundry, toilet, shower, water faucet, any type of water you use, it comes back to MMSD that we then treat, clean, and return to Lake Michigan. And to do that, we have 2 water reclamation facilities. Jones Island, which has been operating since 1926, is downtown Milwaukee, and South Shore, which is in Oak Creek, has been operating since 1966. And both treatment processes are very similar to each other, very similar to most of the country, actually, where we settle out the solids, we we use microorganisms to consume any pollutants that are left. We disinfect, we take the disinfectant out, and then we discharge back into the lake. So it's a very standard process throughout the region. And if you'll notice on this map, you'll see this red crosshatch area in the middle. This is a combined sewer area. So the oldest part of Milwaukee and Shorewood has one sewer that carries both stormwater and wastewater, and that's a combined sewer. It's all combined in one pipe. The vast majority of the area, about 75, 76% of the area, is a separate sewer system, which has a pipe that carries the wastewater and then either a ditch or a pipe that carries stormwater away. And I talked about microorganisms that help clean the pollutants. We take those microorganisms, and since 1926, we've been producing a fertilizer called Milwaukee Organic Nitrogen, which we then sell on the open market. You can see in Lowe's, Menards, Ace Hardware stores. And we're targeting right now, we're going to earn about $12 million on the sales of these microorganisms that we've used to clean our wastewater. We also have a deep tunnel system, which has done a phenomenal job to improve the water quality in the region. This, again, helping to prevent pollution in the waterways to make our drinking water supply, keep it protected for the future. The tunnel holds 521 million gallons of water. It's about 300 feet below the surface, ranges in diameter from 17 to 32 feet. And it was designed to not capture all the overflows, but to capture the vast majority. And it was designed to have 1 to 2 overflows per year. And to date, since 1993, when the first tunnel came online, we've captured 98.4% of all the water that's come to us. So when you read about overflows or dumping, it's that 1.6%. And just as a reference, the Environmental Protection Agency requires us to be greater than 85%. We're doing much better than the federal and state requirements placed on us. And actually, we're one of the best combined sewer systems in the country for this performance metric. So we're doing a very aggressive job to try to keep our rivers clean, which means we have a lot of construction. These are pictures of some of the harbor siphons work where we had to build new siphons under the inner harbor to deliver flow to Jones Island so that we would not have any bottlenecks. Lots of construction. We spend around $100 to $120 million a year on capital improvements here in the region. And with all that work, with the deep tunnel, with the treatment plants, with all the sewer work that we're doing, we were still having water quality concerns. So in the early 2000s, we partnered with the Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission Sewer PAC. We developed the Greater Milwaukee River Watersheds analysis to determine where pollution was coming from. And what this analysis really told us was that we had done a really good job with the wastewater side of the hydrologic cycle, but we still had stormwater runoff coming from urban areas and stormwater runoff coming from agricultural areas that were still causing pollution in the region. So we needed to do more to try to address those sources of pollution. And part of that work is the flood management work. We could go in the old days, we would go in and we would just put a concrete liner on a river. What we're doing today is we're going in and taking that concrete lining out, putting in natural systems so that we mimic nature as much as possible, so that we can manage the 100-year storm. If you could mute your line, please.
I went out and I just came back in.
If you could mute your line, please. We're trying to use nature when we manage floods. And these are various projects, Menomonee River, Valley Park, and Underwood Creek on the upper right. 5 years ago, that picture on the right was a concrete lined channel. And if you didn't know any better, you'd think you were in northern Wisconsin. And here's one of those concrete linings that we're removing. Again, these were placed in the 1960s. At the time, maybe a good approach, but we've learned since so much more that this is not the best way to manage floods. And so we are actually actively ripping out concrete lining today. And this is the perfect example of that. Pulaski Park on the Kinnickinnic River. The picture to the left was a concrete lining that was starting to fail. It was installed in the 60s. We just completed this project this summer. And this is infrastructure of the future. We're not just putting concrete back in place. We're not just managing the 100-year flood. We're going in, we're adding recreation, we're adding habitat. We're trying to complete the cycle on how we do infrastructure so that it mimics and supports the other functions of our society. And then we try to manage water where it falls. Again, back to the sewer pack study, we need to manage stormwater so it does not carry pollutants into the rivers that then causes problems downstream. So we've created something called the Fresh Coast Guardians, which is striving to help people understand how they can manage that drop of water when it falls on their property. And we do that through green infrastructure. MMSD invests heavily in green infrastructure throughout the region in all the in-county communities. And since 2002, we've installed 43 million gallons of green infrastructure. And this is, again, trying to hold that drop of water where it falls. So this might be a green roof like you see at the top, or it could be a urban garden that has infiltration on the bottom left, or working on some of the schools in the region to try to bring back habitat to those regions, nature to those regions, and take some of the concrete out. 43 million gallons. We've got a huge goal of over 700 million gallons that we're striving for, but we're going to get there. And you can see there's so many other benefits to just managing water when we do these projects. And one of the larger scale projects, we're purchasing land along the rivers that is in floodplain. So it should not be developed, because if it's developed, it's going to force waters downstream and flood out homes in the future. So we've established a long-term goal of purchasing some of these lands. And although it was meant for flood management and water quality, what we're finding is that with the changing climate that we're all facing today, it really gives us an opportunity to plant trees so that we can try to reduce some of the other impacts that the urbanization that we've caused is causing on our climate. And Green Seams is a great project where we are purchasing this land, putting an easement on it, and then providing that to others to manage. And each of you, although you may not realize that, you have a pipe of your own that runs from your house down to the street, which is then taken by a municipal system. And what we need to do is try to reduce the amount of clear water that's getting into that pipe. And some homes don't have foundation drains or sump pumps, so we're installing sump pumps. That's the picture on the right. We're also lining pipes to make sure that we try to reduce any groundwater that might seep into this. So this is called inflow and infiltration, and our project is working on private property, try to reduce that inflow and infiltration to the system. And then it really gets down to all of us. When you're walking the dog, when you're out for a walk, when you're on one of those COVID walks, just trying to get out of the house, pick up trash, try to do something. And we've been partnering with the Riverkeeper for several years now, the Milwaukee Riverkeeper, to adopt a river where people go out on specific times and they collect trash, they remove all kind of debris from the waterways and from the streets that end up in the waterways. On a side note, we've actually removed 4 couches out of the rivers this year because people are just throwing them in the rivers. We need to be better about how we manage our waste. And Karen talked about this. It's been a great partnership, and she named a lot of the partners before, where we're trying to make people understand the importance of water, to see how it impacts their daily lives so they can enjoy that cup of coffee. And so we're trying to increase collaboration so that all the different entities are working together, increase the awareness that you have of the water sector so that you know how you impact the water cycle. And then we're also trying to assess internal workforce policies and procedures so that we can make sure that the workforce that we have in the future reflects the constituents that are paying for this work, because we are all public servants. So this is a great effort. It's with the U.S. Water Alliance. We've been doing this for just over 2 years now. And it's really already brought a lot of great discussions about that'll lead to action in the future. And with that, this is why we do everything. We try to protect Lake Michigan, not only for drinking water, but also for the recreational and public health of the system. And Christina, I will turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin, so much for all of that great information.